Now it's recording. Okay. So usually just recording's fine. So you've got your screen up, you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. Recording. Happy, cool. Welcome to our first Women Who Go in-person meetup in a long time. We've been doing them online. We haven't had them in person for over a year, so I'm excited. This is the second in-person meetup I've done. Did Kubernetes last week. This week is Women Who Go. I have another one tomorrow and then another one next week. Anyway, we're going back into meetup land, so we just keep rolling on the meetups. I don't have that many announcements. Let's see. Everybody's in, so I'm going to thank our sponsors, right? Weave sponsoring us gives us the space and the food. Additionally, we'd like to thank Forge for organizing the meetups. Anybody who's not on the Forge Slack, I'd be happy to give you that invite. Anyway, yeah, that way you can join the Slack. There's jobs on there. There's lots of great tech talks, machine learning, Go, Kubernetes. You can ask questions about when you're learning how to code. I post all of my errors on there and tell somebody else to fix it. Hey, Jose, glad you made it. Jose's on my team at work. So, yeah. So everybody's welcome to the Forge Slack. We also, Go West is happening again this year. Go West is my conference, so I'm going to announce it as much as possible. It is a hybrid conference. It'll be in person here as well as online, like literally at Weave. We're hosting it in this building because look at how massive this room is. We have to have a conference here or else I'll cry. So that's in October, and I don't know when we're going to sell tickets. And I also don't know when we're going to announce the speakers, but we have selected them. So at some point, we'll do something with that. Yeah, I'm going to turn the time over to Julie. She's awesome. She taught herself Go, which is like the most inspiring thing because she doesn't do it at work, but she still loves it. And yeah, you can introduce yourself and we'll go from there. Okay. Oh, no, I have one more thing. Oh, sure. Yeah. There's stickers on that table over there. Make sure you get them before you leave. That was it. Just the stickers. And take food home. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mariah. My name is Julie Kohler. She says I taught myself Go. That suggests that I know it, and that's not accurate. I'm just a beginner and a dabbler, but it's fun, and so I volunteer to speak here sometimes to force myself to keep taking on projects with it, and it's been quite rewarding. Okay, so for this particular project, I wanted to do a couple of things, make something cool looking, and then write a CLI in Go, because I heard everybody makes CLIs in Go. So I was going to see what that was about. A little bit about my background. Here, let me just talk about that instead of letting you read it. And I'm not in presentation mode just because we're going to move between a lot of different screens here. Anyway, so ever since I started programming, I thought it was really cool how you could manipulate images with code. And so one of the very first things I built was this little thing in jQuery where you could press the arrow buttons and make Mario jump and move across the screen, right? So that was fun. And then I did this book cover generator, just, would put out an image based on the works of this graphic artist who came up with this layout, a grid layout for creating book covers for the Penguin Book Company. So I just kind of emulated that, and you would make it of different sizes and add different images and stuff. And then at one of my jobs, we did some SVG manipulation, and as part of making widgets. When you call into a call center and they say this call may be recorded for quality assurance, it is often being recorded, and they could do if they were one of our customers is pipe that through our software. We would perform linguistic analysis on it and then kind of spit out some results. So here you're seeing silence on a call or in chats with people, and then sentiment trends so that you can see just how angry your customers were at you. We also had one called the frustration widget, which was a little bit different than just.
So is the answer they're always angry at you?
No, sometimes it's just confusion.
Okay.
But that played into frustration. Yes. Okay. So anyway, and as I was thinking about maybe what I could do to manipulate images, I was like, maybe I can make them kind of change color or something like that, and that immediately made me think of the works of French Impressionist Claude Monet, who one of the things he would do is go someplace in nature, outdoors, and paint different scenes at different times of day and in different atmospheres, right? So this series is haystacks, and that is the front of the Rouen Cathedral, and these different ones are. He just went out at different times and painted the light, the quality of light and the atmosphere and so forth. And I think that's pretty cool. So I decided I was going to try and emulate that a little bit with code. So as I started looking around at Go and SVG things, one of the first things I found was this Svgo library that has been helpful to me. I recommend checking it out if you're interested in this stuff at all. It supports a lot of different kinds of SVG elements, and you can say like, oh, I want to add these different things to an SVG, and it'll kind of spit it out for you after you put in your different parameters, right? And also, you can just use the standard XML package for Go, because people don't realize this, SVG is actually just part of XML.
And SVG is the file type, right?
It is the files type and the standard.
Yeah, for the vector type file. So it's just, okay, so it's the library for manipulating a type of images type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of like some important parts of this library that we're going to see later on. So everything comes back to this SVG entity, right? And so we start off by constructing one with new, and that new takes an IO writer where we're going to write out our output, okay? And then we're going to start the SVG, which like creates the SVG document itself using a height and width. And then you can add a lot of other characteristics or properties on to many of these elements that we're going to see. The SVG spec is so huge, it's difficult, in fact, to encode it because there's just so many different things that you can do with it. So one of the things that this library does to be flexible is a lot of times on the end of these different calls, there'll be this variadic last parameter, and it'll be like, these are all the styles that I want to add on to the end. And it's actually just a string, and it puts the string in the right place on the SVG element. But that's where that comes from. Okay, so, and then I just wanted to see an example here with FE point light of just kind of what's going on. In fact, when we do this, you'll see it's just printing it out. It's just printing it out to the file. Yeah, should we turn off maybe this light?
I haven't quite figured out how the lights actually turn off.
So this is dangerous. I might turn out every light.
There we go, yeah.
Oh, that's better.
All right.
Yeah, I was about to move.
I don't know how the lights work.
It's a new room. All right, we'll go with this. Anyway, so as you can see, it's here with printf, like I said, just printing it out and putting the text strings in the right spots and putting the values that you provided into the right places. And then end literally just closes it off with a closing SVG tag. So it's cool because you can do so much, but it's actually just like spitting it out to a file. That's mostly what's going on there. Okay, so as I was looking at this, I decided I wanted to use this library to apply filters to images. And why I would focus on that one thing specifically is because that was a cool thing I could do with these images, right? That was kind of a bit of discrete functionality. If you tried to do everything that you can do with SVGs, it would just be too much, and also it would be kind of unwieldy because in fact it is very convenient to just edit your SVG tags and then see the changes, right? So you probably aren't going to want to do that programmatically every single time, or from the command line at least. Like, as you know, the point of a command line interface is that it's kind of, I don't know, small enough to be useful discreetly. So it would just get really challenging. Okay, so we're going to take a little look at my code. Please be patient with it. Like I said, I'm a beginner, and this is still a little bit in development here.
Aren't we all beginners?
Oh, that's a good attitude. It's a great attitude, Mariah. Some of us, that's kind of like Animal Farm. All of us are beginners, but some of us are more beginners than others. So we start out with this main function that calls CLI.run. And so let's go into our CLI package. It's a very tiny main package here. So this run is just going to try and start up our app, which is this struct that has some of the things that we're passing in from the command line. You can see that on like lines 35 through 37. And then it's going to run some additional functionality for us. So on the command line, we can pass in filters that we want to apply, and in saying that this is the image I want to apply those to, and then out saying this is where I want to write out to. And in fact, if we go use help here, part of the flag package in the standard library is that when you set these up, when you declare them here, it actually creates kind of this built-in help functionality. So if I do this, you'll see that, oh, these are the things that we can have here, right? And this is what they're meant to do.
Do you have a list of filters besides, I mean, in the CLI, I see how you have like sorry, on line 43, I know you have a list right there that would print out in the CLI, but are you going to get into that later? Am I jumping the gun?
A little, but,
Okay,
but
then-
wait, I want to make sure I understand your question. Go ahead and.
I was just wondering if you had like, I see, the filters are a type, so I'm wondering if, I guess since that means that you have a set of them or something that you would pull from later. So we're good.
Well, actually, they're just going to be strings. I'm just going to parse them as strings and store them that way. So there is a filters type. Wait, where is it? Here.
Yeah.
But you'll see it's just holding.
I guess like when we get there, could I put in a filter that is invalid? Is my question. Do we?
If you did, nothing would happen.
Okay, that's where we're at. That's fine. That was my question, is what would happen if I put in a filter that was invalid? I just didn't ask that the first time.
We have, there's kind of more interesting bad input handling for the other two, because it really won't work without an inner and out, whereas filters are optional. Technically, you don't need to apply any filters. Okay. So then we're going to call flag.parse, which is going to assign those to this app EMB, because we associated them I'm in the way here, right? We said, hey, app.out should be whatever the user supplies on the command line for this out value, right? And we're going to validate that, and then we're going to try running some stuff. Okay, so our validate input is not super sophisticated. It's just, did you give me one of those? And if in the case of filters, if that's totally empty, just letting you know, hey, you didn't put anything there. So, like I said, not super sophisticated. Okay, then we get into this op section, where we have some interesting error handling that I thought I was being clever. Don't do this. It doesn't work very well. So instead you want to use a retry. I was trying to do a retry using a while-like loop, right? Where I'm like, oh, hey, as long as someone has not provided me with this valid input, keep asking them for better input, right? But the guarding doesn't work quite right on those anyway. So right now it's a happy path program. Just don't mess up and it'll work great. So anyway, here we go. So, and this is also kind of to validate the input that you have been given, right? Which is why I left it on app. It's because I'm trying to update those values if they're bad, right? So I'm gonna keep trying them. Another optimization here would maybe be like, okay, retry this 3 times, and if you keep getting bad input, we're just gonna panic and leave, right? This isn't working out. Okay, and then at the end of that, at the end of our op, we're gonna create the SVG, where we're gonna take this input string, it's just a string, the writer that we got from creating the file, the out file, up here, and then the filters that we have, again, slice of strings, and then width and height, which we determined by decoding this image file that we tried to open there. And the reason we have to do that is, one, it's kind of just, it's nice that we would automatically match the output size to the input size, right? But also this library, a lot of times, even where the SVG spec would allow you to use percentages and stuff, it will only allow you to use raw numbers. So
it's a limitation of the library
A little bit.
okay, that only allows you to do numbers. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
yeah, there's a lot of SVG things where you could be like 50% or whatever, but this library won't let you do that. It wants it in pixels. So we gotta get those to set things up. Anyway, okay. And then, yeah, just something about using the flag package. You can have kind of this, a variable of your own custom type, but if you do that, you have to implement the interface properly, which includes string and set. So, okay. And then we have something for getting user input. We're just doing scanners here. And outputting errors is pretty straightforward. It's just, hey, here's an explanation, here's an error. Okay, so we're just gonna keep moving down. Stop me, I guess, if you have questions. Okay, so this is create SVG. We've got our input file, which we're going to, or our input string, which we're gonna pass here to image. That's one of the elements that we're gonna add. So I'm gonna look here at, we're gonna flip over to an example of how this is gonna end up. Oh, actually, why don't I just do it here? So this is what you're seeing ostensibly in my browser. It's actually just looking at this file on my computer. So, and one of the things about this library, it also doesn't indent nicely, so you just have to kind of be careful as you read it. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this defs tag, which is where you add all of your filters that you want to use in your SVG. That's where they live or belong. Then we're gonna have a filter. The filter is filled with different filter effects, and there are many, many filter effects. And they can take different attributes to change how they behave, of course. So in this case, for example, we have a color matrix. And then I add FE merge to try and merge the different filters together. And then we add the image, and then to the image we apply this filters. And there's, it's actually trickier than I expected to apply multiple different filters to a single image, because if you're doing it in CSS, you can just be like first filter name, second filter name, or ID, right? Not so much actually in the SVG tag, in the image tag itself here. So you have to get kind of creative with how you combine them. One way to do it is to add one of the filters to the image and then create a group and then add the filter to the group and so forth, but I didn't want to do that because that gives you like too many groups for no reason other than to apply these filters. Anyway. So going back here, so we have our add filters, and so right now my filters are working best one at a time. They don't overlap really nicely yet. It takes some tweaking to get them to do that and not just cover each other up. Anyway, so we're looping through the filters, and for each filter, we're adding the appropriate tags. And so some of these are kind of hard-coded, like if we look at the Dawn filter, it's like these are the values specifically, and the user cannot configure them at all. But my goal for the project was to create something a little bit more extensible, a little bit more configurable, where a user could like provide more of the values themselves, right? And that from the command line, doing that from the command line quickly gets really, really messy because there's just so many values that you can take. Even with my limited focus on filters, there's just so many different things you could specify for the different for the different filter effect types and so forth. So I decided to say, hey, user, you can throw me some JSON files, and I will unmarshal those and create the elements out of them, but you just have to follow this specifically. So to see the SVG structs that are involved here, there's a lot of different possible values. So, yeah. So, anyway, so you can see why it's easier to like hard code them at first. So that's how a handful of ours are here. But so we have a dawn, a dusk, a night for the different times of the day, and then this black and white one, which, yeah, let's look at real quick at the JSON here. We're like, hey, I'm going to create this color matrix object, and I want you to unmarshal what's in that file over there, and then take that object that you've created, this filter spec, and then pass it into, or take the value off of it, which in this case is 0.3, take that off, and then put it in here into values. Pass it as values into this color matrix saturate. Kind of another interesting thing, so I've already mentioned the percentages and just numeric values problem in this library. Another one is that sometimes it is expecting ints when floats would be super convenient, because if we're talking about something like opacity, we often have like 0.5 to 0.75, like that's our range of opacity, right? And sometimes this library is set up in some cases, not all, but to only take ints in some of those spots. So it's just a thing to be aware of. I might make it PR. Anyway, okay, so let's see it in action. Which filter do you guys want to apply first?
Dawn.
Dawn, okay, good choice. And let's
To
just...
what are we applying it?
To what are we applying it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, because I wanted to be cool or whatever, so I went and found a picture of Rouen Cathedral where Claude Monet painted. So try and emulate his work. So, excellent question. So let's call this Rouen Dawn, and then let's see, that we still, sorry, it's, the JPEG is gonna stay the same, and our filters here is gonna be also, okay.
Will it accept any kind of file? Like right there, you're putting in a JPEG. Could I do like a PNG or like a?
These three, you can do GIF, JPEG, and PNG. And
What?
this is a really interesting thing about the image package. It's like we need to import these for the side effect.
Well, yeah,
of importing
that
it.
makes sense. But like, what if I just wanted to take a PNG and convert it to SVG? Could I just like not apply any
Yeah.
filters and it would?
Let's do that next.
Oh, that's such a good tool. Now I don't need Photoshop anymore.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's see, we said Dawn, right? Okay, I'm just
Yeah, Dawn.
copy our whole path here. Because VS Code isn't that nice to view stuff in. So it starts a little pink, the rosy fingers of dawn, in the words of Homer, and then lightens up, just like the real dawn does. So let's see. So you just wanted to put out
No filters, just
no filters. Okay, so we're just gonna
no filters, just like convert like file
This
types.
is not awkward at all. Okay. Let's see if my warning works properly. Hey, FYI, it doesn't look like you provided any filters.
but it still created the file.
Let's see. Okay.
Well,
Copy paste.
the one below it, you clicked. Oh, you never mind. You clicked on the right one.
Oh, it didn't work.
Okay, so it just created the file, but it didn't save it. That's fine. I'm not upset. You didn't create it for that use case.
I didn't, but let's take a look at why that might have happened. So we have these filters. Oh, yeah, that's why. It's because I'm still trying to apply this filter and the filter is pretty empty, I guess. Is probably why. So if we take that out, let's remove that real quick. And then also take it off of here. And then refresh, thank you.
That's
Oh,
done.
That's done. I had it open. Hey, it does. The Control-Shift-Tab works there too. So yeah, so now we have an SVG. And there it is. So I will optimize for that use case. Good to know that's of interest to people.
You can just do a default, like in your switch that you already have, you could probably add a default that's no filters, right?
Yeah.
Or something.
Well-
I'm not saying you should do that. That's just my hacky way of doing it.
Yeah, let's take a note of where and create SVG. So I think the issue is here.
Yeah.
So JK, this is how I make notes to myself. Allow 0 filters. Okay. Do that. Okay, so let's just try them all. And we'll call this one dusk. You didn't like it? How come? Oh, haha. Because I renamed the wrong thing, that's why. So there's that, see, it shouldn't have gotten to the block that allowed it to create that file. That's why you shouldn't use my little loop. I thought was so cool. Or whatever. Okay, so sorry, we're dusk, and then this is this, and then filters. Dusk. Okay, and then just copy that, and should have put it out as dusk. Oh, look at it change. It's getting oranger and darker.
It's almost like it's setting on you. It's like a time-lapse video.
Okay, are we at max value? I can't tell. Sometimes they change so subtly. I'm like, end? Restart? Where? Okay, so let's just see how we're doing here compared to Monet. I don't know. I think we're kind of here top, middle there. Sort of. Yeah. All right. Let's do one more night. Oh yeah, sure. We'll just call it night. And once again, I should just duplicate the tab, huh? This is good. Okay.
That's nighttime.
It doesn't actually go to black, but here it sure looks like it. It's very good. So, as far as what I want to expand in this little project is better filter stacking, right? Because I would like it to be able to handle dawn, dusk, night, and just take you all the way through, which requires an animation delay, which I did program in there, but it's actually the hard part is getting the different SVG nodes to reference the correct like output, input, output, input. So that's something to work on. And then more JSON extensibility, because I really like that we got the black and white working, and it helped a lot that it was a pretty straightforward one that didn't have a bunch of nested filter effects, because you can practically nest endlessly with some of this stuff. And then let's see, I would like to also be able to parse SVGs and then turn them into JSON so that my program can then consume them down the road. That would be fun.
Like standard filter sets? Okay.
Stuff like that. Or be like, oh, here's that. I like the filters on it. I'm just going to pull those off and then have to apply them, right? And then some more utilization of the capabilities of the image package, because there is a lot of cool stuff on the image package. You should check it out, so that you can mess with existing values that are there. Anyway, any questions?
Super cool.
Oh,
I like it.
Thank you. It's not perfect, but I'm glad that people like it.
Well, that was cool.
No program is ever perfect, so it doesn't matter.
That was really cool.
And I learned a ton as part of the process, for sure. I learned so much about the SVG spec and about different Go bits and pieces, because really, even though it's a pretty small program, it ends up touching like quite a bit of stuff, quite a number of packages and lots of I/O things going on and stuff like that. So, you know, the big goal for me was to learn something, and I definitely did. I super enjoyed it.
We can clap now. That's the one thing I missed. You can't clap remote. You can't clap when you're on remote meetups.
You can, there's an emoji.
That's not even close to the same. Awesome. Yeah.